All right, welcome back. You watch Stop the Steal TV, and lots going on. We're still keeping our eye on the presidential race, but of course, state by state, they're starting to certify the results. The president still has a number of legal challenges at his hand, so we'll keep you abreast of all that. Now, 4 years ago, right around now, right at the end of November, I was on Fox News with Neil Cavuto, and he was asking me what I thought about the market. The market was around 20,000. And I said, Neil, I think what's going to happen is Trump can get his tax policies in. That's going to stimulate the economy in a way it hasn't in a long time. We're going to see a lot of repatriation. More importantly, I think Donald Trump is going to engage in removing regulatory hurdles, and capitalism will increase. Jobs will increase, improvement, gross domestic product will increase. And 4 years later, it sure looks like a combination of those very things have brought us, even with the pandemic, to quite a great place. And to keep an eye on in the event Joe Biden is the president, we have out there on the wall as one of our watchdogs, the Taxpayer Protection Agency. And joining us right now is Patrick Hedger, Vice President of Policy at TPA. Hey, Patrick, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you just wrote a piece, Defeating COVID Means Continuing to Defeat Onerous Regulations. This was published in Inside Source. And it means, by all accounts, I've had every expert on here, right? And it's kind of widely recognized now that the tangential damages to society, to kids, to mental health, to recovery, to domestic violence are far worse than these crazy tyrannical regulations which we're seeing in blue cities and blue states. What are you guys at the Taxpayers Protection Agency, what are you guys doing to try to get rid of this stuff? How can we do stuff here?
Well, I think it's first about recognizing what the problem is. And the problem is that one size fits all solutions, generally, if they don't work, right, if the shoe doesn't fit, then it creates problems for everybody. We had a one-size-fits-all regulatory solution through the federal government when it came to testing for COVID-19, and the federal government fell on its face, and we were left without adequate testing. And so the federal government has shifted in terms of trying to achieve a COVID-19 vaccine to allowing the private sector to compete to offer a vaccine, and now we have multiple candidates that are all above 90% effective. So it just is really a testament to trying to decentralize out of Washington, D.C., the solutions to COVID-19. And that's not just at the federal level, but also at the state and local level. Instead of trying to tell entrepreneurs and businesses how to best deal with this virus, we need to be allowing businesses to adapt to the situation and see who comes up with the best way to keep their customers safe.
So here's the thing that gets me crazy, okay? From the Small Business Administration, 80% of the workforce in America works for a small business. Okay, that's under $10 million a year in revenue, approximately 4 employees, okay? Most of these people that I know, regular Joes, men and women working hard, blue collar, running a small business, they know what to do. They have a backbone. They've been through the tough times. They roll up their sleeves, right? So to say, hey, Walmart, you can be open. Hey, you guys over at Stop and Shop, you could be open. So big institutional companies, you're okay. But you little guys, you don't know how to keep yourself and your customers safe, so we're going to tell you what to do. I don't see anybody fighting for those people. It's just not an organized. It's like a fragmented bunch of small organizations that don't have one voice.
Yeah, it's certainly a problem. I wish there was a silver bullet solution. All we can do is continue to raise the volume on this issue and say that you need to create that playing field for the small businesses and entrepreneurs to continue to innovate and figure out ways to continue to conduct business. And this idea that we need to have lockdowns, I mean, most of the lack of business transactions, movement, the effects of the lockdowns were happening voluntarily. But the side effect of that is that it makes it against the law for businesses to try and attract customers in a way that would be safe given the conditions of the pandemic. So again, it's about creating a playing field where businesses and entrepreneurs can try and figure out how to safely continue to do business.
You know what I live here in New York, but I live in Staten Island, New York, one of the 5 boroughs, but we're a little more suburban than the rest of the town. But you know what I saw, which was amazing? All these small restaurants in my area, all around my town here, You want to talk about adjusting to regulatory. I've seen people build shelters, build little huts. They got planters made in voila in a day. They got heaters hanging here. They've actually transformed parking lots and sidewalks into actually comfortable social places on the spot, on the drop of a dime, on a low shoestring budget. And I feel like the entrepreneurs are a lot smarter than these politicians want to give them credit for.
Oh, you're totally right about that. And what I would like to see is maybe more of a hands-off approach. Instead of saying you can have outdoor dining, allow entrepreneurs to try and retrofit the inside of their restaurants as well. Perhaps with new air filtration systems. But by putting that blanket ban on the number of people you can actually have inside the restaurant, you're diverting all the resources to outdoor dining. I think we would be better off seeing a combination of both, right? A combination of indoor dining and outdoor dining. But again, letting the entrepreneurs experiment instead of saying, oh, well, we can have outdoor dining, but we're going to put the indoors outdoors. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. We're channeling the energy of entrepreneurs in a weird way through regulations. I'd rather see them all opened up to be able to experiment as the best way to conduct business given the conditions of the pandemic.
Yeah, here's my problem here in New York, okay? I'm all for, all right, spacing inside and indoor dining at a smaller capacity. I'm okay with that. But then when you want to tell me that you got to close at 10 o'clock because I guess the COVID gets stronger after 10 o'clock, then I start thinking that this whole thing is a whole bunch about nothing because there can't be a time constraint. Well, you can dine indoors, but only until 10. Then it starts to feel like, you know, to me, a whole bunch of arbitrary rules that are just really designed for more of a, you know, removal of our liberties.
Yeah, two major problems stick out to me right there. The first is that, as you said, the rules sound ridiculous on their face to anybody that has a shred of common sense, which means if you have all of these arbitrary rules that don't really make a lot of sense to people, people tend to ignore them, even if they're good policy. And then the other problem is when you are saying that there are time constraints around when you can and cannot serve customers, that just forces the customers all to come into a shorter time window, which naturally creates crowding and a lack of social distancing. It doesn't make any sense. If anything, we should allow bars and restaurants to be open 24/7.
No question. Hey, our final couple of minutes here. I have to say, I think one of the silver linings of this whole scamdemic, as I call it, was the emergence of telehealth and telemedicine. And I know a lot about it, and I know that it does a heck of a lot of good for elderly and disabled folk and non-ambulatory folk. How important is the next administration picking up telehealth and telemedicine and making sure that it's more widely distributed? I think 70% of Americans said they like to try it, but only 10% of Americans have tried it.
Yeah, I think this is a critical thing that the next administration needs to continue to do, and it needs to resist the regulatory impulse, right? We're already starting to see a lot of the same types of people that have populated both Republican and Democratic administrations in the past that have given us all of these regulations begin to populate the potential Biden administration. So they need to really resist that impulse and take a page out of the playbook of the current FCC that is deregulated and got out of the way and actually promoted telehealth. We need to also look to our state and local officials that reduce the barriers to practicing medicine across state lines, which would dramatically expand telehealth. Imagine if the best doctor for whatever your ailment is in California and you're in New York. Shouldn't you be able to have a telehealth visit with them? I mean, just the ability to not just expand safe healthcare during the pandemic, but also begin to lower healthcare costs by increasing competition across state lines. It's a win-win, and there's no better time than now to finally address this ridiculous problem.
Absolutely, and it was Donald Trump again removing some regulation to make it that much easier for telehealth to spread across the country. Look, I hope Trump still wins. I think there's still a lot of this story to be told, but in any event, hopefully the advances in telehealth through the pandemic will carry on to any administration and beyond that, because it's going to be great for our society. Patrick Hedger, Vice President of the Taxpayer Protection Agency. Thank you very much for joining us, brother. Great insights.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, look, I try to take you around the globe. We're talking about politics. We're talking about stopping the steal, which is still on full force and on like Donkey Kong, if you know what I'm saying. It's on. and we're still fighting every day. But, you know, one of the things you got to realize is while all that noise is up here, the signal down low in the blue cities and the blue states is more lockdowns, masks inside, and they're talking about now. That's what they're talking about, masks indoors, in between bites. So it's getting crazier by the minute. We're going to take another big bite out of hour one right after this when I come back and go nuts on the news of the day. Quick break, more Stop the Steal right after this.